Granny Greensocks, flying backwards through a world of delusion towards truth. So now I've realised that something doesn't have to taste sweet, soft, juicy, etc. in order to be nourishing food. For example, dandelion greens or nettles or the prickly leaves off the sow thistle. I'm turning my attention to things with seeds and skins. For example, those little kiwi fruits that I've moaned about over the years because when they're ripe they're so small and they're so hairy that I can't see much use for them. On the other hand, the vine is very prolific and maybe I'm being too fussy in not wanting to use them. Look at the absolute jungle that is this kiwi vine. It's supposed to arch gracefully over the path, but you have to duck to get under it now. And this is always full of little kiwi berries, which don't ripen until about December and never get any bigger than, well, I don't know, about twice the size they are now, which is not huge, not the size of the ones you get in the shops by any means. So in the past I have harvested some of these and I've cut them in half and kind of squished out the juicy bits, which makes them wet and you have to eat them immediately, otherwise they're going to go off. And I don't see why I shouldn't do that again. I didn't do it last year. I wonder actually if it's possible to eat the things entire with the tough skins and the hairs on them. Would anybody do that? Because lately I've been thinking maybe I'm too fussy about what I will eat and what I won't eat. You know, when I was little, I would spit out seeds of all kinds. So we didn't often have grapes, but when we did, I'd always spit the seeds out. And of course, cherry stones, nobody's going to swallow them unless it was my little 3-year-old sister who didn't know any better, and we thought maybe she'd grow a cherry tree inside herself, but she didn't. Anyway, yes, cherry stones you don't swallow, but grape seeds, yes. And then there's melons. As I got a bit older, I came across melons, and particularly watermelons. And I noticed that you can't really eat a watermelon without swallowing the seeds. I tried picking out one after another and putting them carefully on the side of my plate, but it's too much work and evidently nobody else is doing that. I've got a rather embarrassing story concerning seeds, which I'll tell you. But first, let me show you the hazel harvest, which has been huge this year. I know it's still only July. I say has been. It almost is a has been. See that hazel tree? For the last couple of weeks, the squirrel or squirrels have been rummaging through it and ripping off all the hazelnuts that they think might be almost ripe, gnawing at them, discarding them. They aren't expected to be ripe for another month at least, probably 2. What do these squirrels think they're doing? So last week I went up there on the shed roof and pulled off as many of the nuts as I could reach. They're still green, they're not mature, but I'm blowed if the squirrel's going to get them all this year. So here's my pathetic green harvest. They're beginning to go brown now, they're drying out. We'll see how big the nuts are when it comes to that point. They haven't got these yet, but they will. And there's the whole other side of the tree, which is a bit hard to reach due to there being rather a lot of stuff in the way. So the squirrel will probably get those as well. But look at all these grapes here. I think Chris has already thinned them out a bit. He's going to have to come back and do it again. So now to the embarrassing story. When I was 14, I was shipped off to Germany to stay with a distant cousin's family. They also had a 14-year-old daughter. And the first night I was there, we had a meal together and everybody was happy and jolly, and after the meal we had grapes. In those days grapes had seeds in. I know since then someone's invented a clever chemical that prevents the grapes from developing seeds, but in those days all grapes had seeds. So of course my normal first reaction would be to bite open the grape, spit out the seed and put it on my plate. But I was in a strange country with strange people and I didn't want to do anything that they weren't doing. And when I looked around, they didn't appear to be spitting their grapes out. They just appeared to be, I don't know, swallowing them whole or something. So this put me in a bit of a quandary because I'd never swallowed grape seeds, and yet I couldn't spit them out because nobody was doing it. So inside my mouth, I carefully extracted all the little seeds and stuck them in a corner like a hamster, stored them away in the side of my cheek. And I thought, well, when we've finished, just so as not to cause any embarrassment to anyone, I shall just go carefully to the bin and spit them out and nobody will see. But unfortunately, after the meal, everybody got up and joined in, clearing the table and doing the washing up and drying up and putting things away and chatting to me. And now I'm trying to talk without revealing that I've still got a pile of grape seeds in the corner of my cheek. And so I waited and waited, and eventually we got all the chores done, and I made my escape into the garden. And I wandered around the garden looking for somewhere to spit this bunch of grape seeds, and hooray, I found a compost heap. I thought, that's just the place. So I went up to the compost heap and I spat out the grapes. And I turned around and there was the father of the family looking at me and smiling. Whoa, talk about wanting the ground to open up and swallow you. Anyway, so that was when I was 14. We recently went to stay with one of Chris's cousins who lives on a wild mountaintop village in Italy. And every day they go out and pick the little grapes off their grapevine and put them in their breakfast. And they're full of seeds. And so I thought, oh, come on, you've just got to eat the grapes with the seeds on. That's what everybody does. And now I'm thinking, all those little grapes in our garden, which never grow very big, and usually I say, well, they're not worth having because they're all seed and no flesh. I'm clearly being too fussy. So if the birds leave us grapes this year, I'm going to just swallow my inhibitions and my grape seeds. So that's it. See you next time. Bye.